All right, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another OWASP Toronto chapter meetup. My name is Adam Greenhill. I'll be your host for this evening. And just to give people a little bit of time to trickle in here, we'll have a little bit of a pre-show banter with our speakers today, Andrew Turnsek and Matthew McCarty. Yeah. A little bit of feedback here.
Yep.
No worries.
Remember when I said that I was going to mute the video on the other monitor? Forgot to do that.
It's all good.
It happens. It happens.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm really good at this.
Oh, that's okay. I did the same thing, and I've been doing this for how many months now?
Right.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. StreamYard is kind of particular as well, so it happens. But yeah, why don't you guys tell me a little bit about where you guys are working now and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, Andrew, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I get into this in my presentation, but I'm currently at Security Compass right now. I've been there. Switching jobs during the pandemic was interesting, to say the least. But I've been there for over a year now, and really enjoying it. The culture shift from being at going to a primarily like hacker focused kind of company versus the structure of like Big Four auditing firms is jarring, to say the least, but all in a very, very good way.
Yeah, it's definitely like the change from being like 10,000 people to like a company that's only 300 is like quite interesting.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah, how about you, Matt? What are you doing?
Oh, I do a lot of things. No, but currently,
rad.
Yeah. Yeah, currently I work at Coinsquare, which is like in Toronto, so we're like crypto exchange. Currently an application security engineer there, and as you can imagine, the intersection between cryptocurrencies, security, money, very interesting. Mm-hmm. Sometimes difficult, but yeah, it's super interesting, super fun. I get to work with some really cool people, and I get to speak to some also lovely people here at OWASP. So it's all around just such a great package.
That's great. Yeah. I know you guys have both been in the industry for a while now. So how do you guys stay up to date? Like, are there like particular people you follow on Twitter that you find particularly useful, or are there podcasts, or how do you guys stay informed?
For me, I think probably the best way to stay informed is be in some really good group chats or IRCs and just keep talking with people. Naturally, when you get a bunch of nerds together, we're gonna start talking about the latest and greatest and sometimes terrifying vulnerabilities and products and stuff like that are out there. And definitely following the right people on Twitter is also very important. And eventually those people that you follow on Twitter and the people that you're in group chats and IRCs and stuff like that with just sort of melds together, and then weird things happen, like when somebody at a con recognizes you and you go, why?
Oh yeah, it's always weird being in DEF CON and seeing people for the first time there, like meeting people that you've known previously. Like it's just like a surreal experience,
Like when people ambush you in a bathroom and ask you a bunch of questions there, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we met.
Yep.
Oh, I was wondering where this story came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is real life.
Though to be fair, at my first DEF CON, I did that to a hacker I really admire, Zaz, who did the owned by the owner talk, and so we keep paying it forward. You've started a trend.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the day that it happens to me. So it just everything's
It
going.
It will. For sure.
How about you, Matt? What do you? How do you stay informed?
Oh man, so many ways. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I don't know about everyone else, but a couple guys on YouTube I like to watch. John Hammond does some fantastic content. Pwn Function, great guy, does some phenomenal content as well, and Live Overflow. So I tend to watch a lot of those guys to like learn about new techniques, CTF stuffs, anything new and pressing. Basically, I go for them. I also routinely go on Hacker News and stuff like that daily to like get the news scoops, and inform teams who need to know before bad guys get to know them. So I do a whole bunch of that, as well as like Andrew, like follow a bunch of people on Twitter. Generally, some people like to tweet out like a lot of the more pressing stuff and then a lot more interesting things first. So I tend to follow them as well, and some various articles around on like Medium and stuff like that. And of course, I always like turn to OWASP for anything cool new security stuff as well.
Thank you for the plug.
If you're looking for insights and new groundbreaking research on Twitter, don't follow me.
Oh, okay. I'll go and follow you.
You can if you want to. You can if you want to, but
if you like hockey, if you like hockey or the Leafs or anything like that, Andrew Turnzek is definitely the person to follow.
Oh yeah. At least, okay.
I rant and rave about all of the problems in both security and also the Leafs, so I have a lot of fodder.
Debatably, there's some sort of intersection there. I don't know what it is, but there could be one.
Trying really hard, but damn it, if things don't keep going wrong.
Oh man. Yeah, a lot to pick apart there, but yeah, I mean it's been a few minutes. I guess we can kind of kick this off. So we'll pass the floor to Matthew for his lightning talk on Threat Dragon. Matt, are you all ready to go?
I think so. Let me hit the share screen button here.
All right.
Wait, one sec.
Yeah, no problem.
Housekeeping.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, important news, everyone. Before we go.
Well, we're virtual, so I no longer need to tell the people the convoluted path to the George Brown bathroom. But there is a CPE feedback URL in the OWASP in the talk description. So if you want to leave feedback, if you were at our previous events and you want to leave feedback about that, please do. And then if you need CPE credits, please leave your actual email address and your first and last name, so that if anybody asks us like, hey, were you here, we at least have some record on our side about you actually showing up to the thing. All right. And then the OWASP Toronto crew will be at the December 2nd Secure Toronto conference. So that one's free as well. It's organized by ISE Squared Toronto chapter. So if you're interested, you can go to that one as well. That's it from us from terms of housekeeping. So now we can really hand it over to Matt. Thanks, guys.
Lovely.
All right, Matt, you're all good. Let's just jump off cam and it's all you.
Okay, for sure. Okay, hello everybody. Hope everyone's having a phenomenal evening here at OWASP Toronto. So I guess formally, I did a little bit of an introduction earlier, but to reiterate, hello. I'm Matthew McCarty. I'm currently working at Coinsquare, crypto exchange located in Toronto. Currently an application security engineer there. Introductions are great and all, but hey, we got a lightning talk to go through. So let's just jump right into it, if you will. So awesome. So what is Threat Dragon? An excellent question, I think, to start. So as you probably would have guessed, because you're all phenomenally smart people, Threat Dragon is a modeling tool, and that was created by Mike Goodwin, John Gadsden, and Leo Reading. If I mispronounced any of your names, I'm very sorry. But yeah, so Threat Dragon, it helps create threat modeling diagrams as part of a secure development lifecycle. So, Threat Dragon supports multiple different methodologies like Stride and CIA and Linden, LINDDUN. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that one, but nonetheless, it supports it, and that's great. We like to see that. So yeah, this really allows Threat Dragon to be very easy plug-in solution for your software development lifecycle. And in a nutshell, Threat Dragon helps build modeling diagrams and has a rule engine actually that's built into it, so it can actually auto-generate threats and their mitigations for you. And as you can imagine, it's a phenomenal time saver. You'll love it. I love it. Everyone loves it. It's fantastic. So Threat Dragon also makes it super easy to share your models. So, if you needed to give, a little threat model diagram to your CEO who still thinks, security is just hiring a few bodyguards and you guys are good to go. Threat Dragon makes that easy. And it's done by using like a super simple export function, which allows, just to share a PDF of your diagram, all the threats you've created, pretty much anything and everything you need to do. Threat Dragon's got your back, and we like that. So jumping into the goals of the project. So we know Threat Dragon's really cool. It's a great tool. It does a lot of cool things, supports a lot of different methodologies, but what is Threat Dragon actually trying to achieve? And that's an excellent question. For one, Threat Dragon is a free, open source. Keep that in mind for later. Threat modeling application for teams. So now, if you aren't familiar with any of those terms, all you need to really know is that Threat Dragon is very accessible and always improving. And those are really, really big focus of Threat Dragon and OWASP in general. So the key areas of this tool specifically are a great UX. So using Threat Dragon is supposed to be simple, engaging, and of course fun. And who doesn't like having a lot of fun? As personally, I've used Threat Dragon at Coinsquare for a bunch of different applications, all the fun stuff, and I can really attest to the fact that it is phenomenally fun. You guys will love it. I already love it. I'm a huge fan. You can take that to the bank. You can trust me on that one. Secondly, the next thing is Threat Dragon. Great UX, it's phenomenal. But we really wanted a powerful threat mitigation rule engine. What does that do? It lowers the barrier to entry for teams and allows non-specialists to contribute. So even if you know very little about security, Threat Dragon's rule engine and basically makes it super easy for anyone, even the average person, to make a very cohesive and strong threat model to share with your teams. And finally, the last point that's a key focus for Threat Dragon is the integration points with other development lifecycle tools. So when implemented, this will ensure that threat models slot easily into development life cycles and remain relevant as the project evolves. So Threat Dragon makes it super easy just to plop it in to any development life cycle, share your models with teams, and so much more. It's just phenomenal. So moving on, we know Threat Dragon's cool. It makes sense. We understand what the goals were, everything like that. So why should you even use Threat Dragon, even threat modeling to a greater extent in your software development lifecycle? Well, threat modeling is widely regarded as a very powerful way to build security into the design of your applications very early in the secure development lifecycle. At its best, it's very good for ensuring in-depth security, establishing out security requirements and user stories, flushing out security establishing consistent security design patterns across an application. So, a lot of important stuff here. So other threat modeling tools, generally speaking, have limitations or just simply aren't as powerful as what Threat Dragon offers. A good example of this, some people here might be familiar with, is the Microsoft threat modeling tool. Which, as of typing my terribly unfunny script, only supports Windows. And as far as I'm aware, that is all it does. It's a Windows native application. And Threat Dragon, by contrast, is a free tool and it's open source, which very, very unique because allows people like you to help improve it. I already know what you're thinking. Wow, Matt, Threat Dragon, so cool, so awesome, and I would love to use that in our software development lifecycle. But unfortunately, we only run Chrome OS at our place of work, and lucky for you, in the nick of time, OS has your back, and the Threat Dragon not only supports Mac, Linux, and Windows, but it also can be used as a web app and can be deployed in a Docker container as well, or Docker image. So even in the most interesting, I should say, environments, Threat Dragon, it's going to work for you. It has a way to work. Awesome. So we talked through a whole bunch of stuff here, and now that you guys are all certified experts at Threat Dragon and its history and how it's a good tool, let's dive into an example of how you would use Threat Dragon. I think that's fairly important for this talk anyway. So if you haven't seen this yet, welcome to Threat Dragon. Glad to have you aboard. It's a phenomenal tool, if you haven't heard me mention that before. So here you have three initial options. You can either open an existing diagram, create a brand spanking new one, or explore a sample model. Obviously, I would love to sit here for 3.5 hours to make a nice cohesive threat model with everybody. But we just don't have the time. So for this example, we're just going to be using the sample model, which is a great way to play around and experiment with different things in Threat Dragon. Cool. So you decided to open up that sample application, sample model. And here you can see, you have a few different options. So you can edit the model itself. You can, in the bottom right there, you can generate a report, or heavens forbid, you can delete it. I don't know why you would want to do that. You guys all produce phenomenal work. So, I would suggest editing it before you go back and delete it. But for the sake of this example, it's just going to be a quick edit. So what you're going to do is you click directly on the image of the diagram there. So once you click that, you're going to get to the next screen. And here it is, your new favorite screen. This is the modeling editor here. So from here, you can see, a whole bunch of stuff. And I can quickly walk you through some of these things. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. And these include processes, which is kind of like an application, stores, and that's kind of like a database, actors. Those are like those nasty little bad guys that are trying to break all your stuff. Data flows. I think that one's a little obvious what it is, but yeah. And finally, trust boundaries. And what trust boundaries essentially are is it's the line that divides your stuff from other stuff. And simply, that's kind of what it means. So you can see in the top left of the diagram here, we have an actor, and that's the browser. And then a process, which is the web application, and with some data flows being sent between them. So, us being super smart, intuitive people, we might be seeing a threat here. So let's add a threat to this specific thing here.
Is it possible to zoom in on that, Matt?
Oh, is it? Yeah, it might be. Maybe not. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, don't worry.
If you want, I can always, walk through. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can provide you the slide decks and everything like that. I can even walk you through an example with Threat Dragon here if that's something you guys are interested in. So, by all means, reach out to me after if you want the slide deck to view this for yourself. If that works for everybody. So Thanks. Awesome. Oh, no problem. Anytime. So you clicked on this. So we clicked on that web response data flow there. And this is going to bring up a nice little box here, and we're going to add a new threat. So here we create a threat. In this case, is just a very generic information disclosure threat. So you're going to fill out all this information, and then once you think you filled this out correctly, like this is all just pre-built in stuff, obviously. But once this is you think this is great, you're just going to hit accept, and once you hit accept, that's it. Your threat has been added. Great job, guys. You did phenomenal. But yeah, that's essentially, that's what it is. You guys are so cool, so great. So finally, you can also take that threat model you just did and export it. So, you can create a PDF document, a PDF report, and, this shows our lovely diagram and all the threats we've marked down. So it's very easy to share, very easy to give out to potential developers you're working with, executives, for example, anybody who would need to get a hold of this information. So yeah, that's it. You're a Threat Dragon Pro. You guys are so cool. So awesome. You guys know how to use Threat Dragon now. So you learned all about it. Why it's great. The goals of the project, and even how to use it. That's great. But now you're left wondering, how can I contribute to such an awesome project? Well, we have a solution for you. Well, if you remember earlier, I mentioned that it was open source. And if you don't remember that, that's okay. My short-term memory also is not very great. But but what you can do, though, is simply just head over to the OWASP Threat Dragon GitHub page and start working on some pull requests. The benefit of being open source is that anyone can come in and contribute. And you know what? If coding isn't your thing, and you're more of a security guy, just like me, then start hacking. And if you find a vulnerability in the project, please let everyone know. For secure disclosure, you can send an encrypted email to Mr. John Gadsden. Apologies if I got the name wrong. But of course, you can always help by giving such phenomenally fantastic, amazing lightning talks. That also helps too. So awesome. So again, you guys know all the thing about Threat Dragon here, and thanks for coming out and thanks for listening to me talk for what was hopefully in the range of 5 to 10 minutes. I wrote this before I did it. I don't know how long it actually is, but here we are. So on screen here, you can find my socials like Twitter and LinkedIn, as well as a very nice photo of me, I think. And yeah, thanks again. And I really appreciate your guys' time to let me talk.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matt. That was a great presentation. You mentioned before to me, like kind of in private, that you actually use Threat Dragon in your work, right?
Yeah, no, I use it a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think with like a lot of companies and stuff like that, and especially Coinsquare, I think you can, if you guys have done your Googling on it, then you can find out what the past history of the company is, and part of my job is like helping make sure everything is going smoothly. So that involves like implementing a way more secure software development lifecycle, and that involves Threat Dragon. It's a phenomenal free tool, and I don't know how to like express how great this is, because convincing executives to spend a couple $1,000s on like another tool is like that's hard. It's not hard to convince them to use a free tool. So it's very easy actually. So, and especially because it's a web app and it makes it so easy to like integrates with GitHub and everything like that to like share documents between developers and stuff like that. It just works. Simply, yeah, it just works.
That's great to hear. Yeah, it's always nice to see like free, comprehensive tooling that can help to help companies implement security without putting a strain on budgets or things like that. But it looks like it doesn't really look like there's any questions in the chat here.
Well, there was one.
I'm gonna go ahead and say we can safely ignore that one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll give Matt the option to answer if he chooses.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see the comment, if I'm being quite honest. What was?
No, I think it could be from a friend of yours, Matt. It was somebody named Sergio saying, "But Matt, how do I hacks my ex-girlfriend?"
Oh, of course.
I'm pretty sure I know who that is, and I'm gonna be having a talk with him later.
Yeah, I know, Sergio. Of course, you can't use as a white hat hacker. Of course, all of us here are. I would never use my powers for evil. So
speak for yourself, Matt.
Okay, well, Andrew might have a different philosophy on that, but we're trying to set a good example here, man. Come on.
Are we?
This is the part of the in-person sessions that never gets recorded, so we can actually answer such questions. But yeah, this one's going on YouTube, so we're just gonna quietly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, well,
yeah.
But yeah, so like if anyone has any questions or comments or wants to like hit me up on Twitter or on LinkedIn, whatever media you prefer, and I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Yeah, I mean, like not to put Ophi on the spot, but like I know Ophi, you're big into like threat modeling and whatnot. Like, do you have any questions or kind of comments about Threat Dragon? I'd love to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah. I was gonna say to Matt, like, I'm surprised, like usually asking the IT organization to use free tools is like, yes, but asking the security organization to use an unknown web app on the internet is like, no. So,
Wow.
I'm a little surprised you didn't get pushback on that point.
I think coming with like where the security team is now, and given the OWASP brand recognition, if we're being honest, like definitely helps a lot. I can speak to it and I can like vouch for OWASP being such a great organization.
And the good thing about it being open source is that there are a lot of internal security teams and IT groups that will say, okay, we can only have this in our environment after we do, ironically, a full threat modeling of it to see if this is a danger to introduce into her environment. In which case, you can go. It's all open source. Go for it.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. So, I guess if you guys want to, we can start with Andrew then.
I think there's another.
Oh yeah, of course. Can you walk us through an AWS setup?
Are we talking about AWS setup of Threat Dragon, I'm assuming so, as opposed to like.
I would assume so, and it's not just, hey, can you do a talk on AWS?
How to set up AWS. I mean, I could do that too, but nonetheless.
How to make a cloud company.
Yeah, like with AWS though, I'm pretty like effectively you could just take the Docker image and just host that completely on AWS fairly easily. If we're being honest, I don't think it'd be too difficult to set up. You could also just set up in workspaces or something like that, or whatever you wanted to. But Docker image would probably be the way to go on that front for sure.
And I assume there's probably something on the little README on the GitHub page to run it on Docker, probably.
There is a like instructions on how to run it in Docker, but I'm not sure if they talk specifically about getting it into AWS.
Yeah, I think the Docker image.
An application with its trust boundary in AWS. Oh, okay. I see what you mean. So you're looking for a threat model with AWS being used as the. Okay. Yeah, I probably could do that for you. I don't think we have the time, though. Unfortunately, I think to do that. If you want to, like, reach out to me, and I can, we can set up a time to talk, and I can show you how that would work if that works for you.
Yeah, I mean, it might be beneficial to maybe, like, Matt, if you're okay with this, don't have to answer right now, but maybe, like, if there's a lot of interest on this, we could do, like, a full talk on, like, Threat Dragon, perhaps, or something like that in the future. Because, yeah, I feel like that kind of question kind of is
it's pretty applicable because I think, a lot of people use AWS, obviously. So getting a nice, like, example on how that would work and how trust boundaries would work, everything like that would be pretty interesting for sure.
See, this is how they get people to present for them. They ask them live on stream if they'd like to do more.
Yeah. Oh, we have just dodging that question. We have another question in the chat here. Any reason why Threat Dragon does not support other threat modeling methods like PASTA?
Well, I mean, currently I think it's just Stride, CIA, and Linden. Can you guys tell me how to pronounce that? Is that correct?
Linden, yeah, Linden.
Okay, cool. I didn't know how to do that.
It doesn't matter.
Awesome. So so I guess technically those are the three ones it supports. If you wanted to, I'm sure it's possible for you to add. Again, the benefit of it being open source and stuff like that is that you could just add PASTA integration if you wanted to. I'm sure that's an option for you as well. In terms of why specifically it was Stride, CIA, and Linden, good question.
I think it's because so Stride is the most common one, right?
Yeah.
And then Linden is, I think, the one that's like more privacy focused. So they picked a couple of them that they thought would have like wide applicability. Why they don't specifically support PASTA is probably a like bandwidth problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because Threat Dragon is written by people who are volunteers in their copious free time.
That's
they
the
can't
thing.
cover off all the things.
That's the thing. It may not be supported now, but it's open source. You want it to be supported? Nothing stopping you from working on it.
Or from contacting the
devs themselves.
The devs and kind of asking them to put it in on their higher on their list of priorities. But the chances are good that like they're supporting those specifically because they are using them internally right?
Yeah. That's such a great answer. Good job.
Sorry. It's one of those, like I have, like Adam says, is one of my pet topics is threat modeling. So I hear and talk a lot to different people about it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Completely understandable.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's
looks
basically
like there's a lot of interest. So we might ask you to come back and do like a little session, Matt.
Yeah.
If you're up for it.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Well, there's I know for a fact too that there's a couple different like YouTube videos with the guys who actually who made the tool. I think John specifically, or I think it was John that did it, but you can find that if you just Google or search that on YouTube. You can find the talk on YouTube for you to watch, and he walks through a full in-depth talk on this kind of stuff. So it's completely if the people want me back, who am I to?
Who are you to deny the cries of the people?
Yeah.
And I believe Vandana recently did a project spotlight on OWASP Threat Dragon. So let me just pull that one up here. Yeah, this is the one that she did just on the 2nd of November.
Well, there you go.
Just put that into chat.
Oh, you've got an encore request.
Yes. Awesome. So we'll be in touch, Matt.
Cool.
Here's the
Should
thing, though.
we-
You want an encore, you could just play the video again.
Hey, not too bad.
All right. So I guess that's it for the first lightning talk. Thank you, Matt, again. Very nice. And we'll be moving on to our second talk here by Andrew Turnsek. We have the recording here all lined up. So let's add that to the stream.
For those of you who don't know me,
oh wait, I get it. Yeah, okay.
Start right away. I should explain why it's recorded. I have an 11-month-old puppy, and I was expecting her to be insane this entire time. She's asleep on the floor right next to me, so this could have been live, but I already went to all the effort of recording it, so let's just do that, and then we can ask questions after.
And Andrew says he has a whole list of bloopers that he's going to post to his Twitter afterwards. So
just a couple, but yes, there are some instances of the dog getting involved.
I think there's a few more questions in chat if you want to like hang out over there, Matt, and answer them. And then since we're going to play the video, that means that you can heckle Andrew at the exact same time as his presentation is going and not disrupt the stream. So
Yep.
Please go for it.
I'll be in chat. I'll be in chat. Don't worry about it.
I'm going to hit play now and then shush myself. So enjoy.
For those of you who don't know me, there's going to be an obligatory slide next that's going to let you in on that. But for those of you who do, it's really great to be doing a talk again and talking with everybody. It's been a while. So what I'm going to be talking about is what I'm calling a semi-structured rant about the various problems that I have with how the dreaded report for a VA or a pen test is written, which for many of us is the least fun part of the job. So let's dive right in. So who am I? I'm sure you all saw that particular joke coming, but I'm Andrew Turnsek. I am a senior security consultant at Security Compass Advisory in Toronto. Although, like many of you, I haven't seen much of the office lately and have been pretty much exclusively working from home, which I really appreciate being able to do in my line of work. Across roughly 10 years in the industry, I've worked in 3 different consultancies as a penetration tester, red teamer, and tester of pretty much nearly every flavor of system. I've also spent a bit of time in threat intelligence and general kind of controls assessments and architecture reviews and the like, but once I was bitten by the pen test bug, that's where I ended up staying. Like probably quite a few of you watching here, I am a graduate of the Bachelor's of Information Sciences Information System Security degree program at Sheridan, and I used to host and present at the ISS sessions security meetups there, which I highly recommend that you attend virtually, and when it's safe to, make the trek out there to go see in person. So that's all to say that I've been around a while, and I have seen things, whether it's something written by someone at a company that I work for or a previous vendor who performed the testing last time. I could fill a library with bad reports. There are a lot of awfully written things out there. But what is a bad report, really? Other than the obvious, which is something that's just poorly written in that it doesn't make any sense, it's filled with things that aren't true, or it's just generally grammatically a horror show. What I am particularly talking about right here are ones that contain the following kinds of findings. Ones that are an overly intricate finding that basically needs the stars and planets to align in such a precise way that the likelihood of it actually happening is so low that there needs to be new scientific standards to measure just how small that is. The other ones are the previous findings that don't make any sense to you or aren't even really a security concern, but because it was in a report before, is something that you're being asked to either retest, even if it doesn't make any sense, or to just include again in the report, even if it's something you disagree with. And lastly, what I mean by quantity over quality is when a laundry list of individual issues that could have been consolidated or combined or merged into a single finding are basically listed as a bunch of individual findings. And sometimes these things are the client's fault. I absolutely get that. And I'm not here to shame any particular vendor or client for aiding these kinds of reports, but I do need to talk about this before I have a massive coronary at far too young an age to have one. So let's start at the beginning with likelihood. Most reports that are written tend to rate risks in the following way. You've got your impact rated on a scale of low, medium, high, and your likelihood on the same kind of scale. And you either use a matrix or your best judgment to determine what the overall risk rating is based on those two. So a low will likely balance out into a low, obviously. Medium and low, depending on if it's the impact or the likelihood, then you've got a bit of leeway to decide whether or not you want to have the overall risk be a medium or a low. You know, it ultimately just depends on the way that you want to do it. The problem I have is that with likelihood, we really could use an option with overall risk ratings. We can often have something like informational, which is, you know, we're just going to give you a heads up on this kind of thing. But with likelihood, there really needs to be an option which is, you really don't need to worry about this. You know, that either means that there is no public exploit at the moment, and because of the way that the technology is set up, you know, the only way that this is going to be broken is quantum computing or whatever, you know, fancy FNORD is being used to describe what's going to go on in the future. Or you need a massive amount of resources in order to be able to carry it out, which means you either need to be a nation state that is collecting basically all of the data going in and out of an ISP, or you need to basically already have owned the system itself in order to exploit it. And on that second one, this is my example that I like to use, the biometric bypass for mobile applications. It sounds really, really cool, you know, bypassing biometrics. I'm sure as security people, most of us, when we hear about people using biometrics, we say, oh, well, somebody can just copy it, somebody can provoke you into using it or whatever, so a bypass of it just satisfies what we were already thinking. So, you know, so you've probably got an app or two on your phone that you can use either your fingerprint or your face to unlock. And, you know, I flip-flopped on this over time about whether or not I consider that safe. I've got to the point where I don't care anymore. So as long as you're adequately protecting your device, sure, it's fine. It saves you a bunch of time, whatever. But using a tool like Objection that I have listed here, and this was a banking application, if I remember correctly, that I was doing this against, on iOS, you can hook into the evaluate policy function in iOS, which basically has the OS tell the application whether or not the authentication was successful or not. But you can hook into that and basically tell it, as you can see on the line where I have the red box there, the OS came back and said, no, it didn't work, because I think what I just did was I put the wrong finger on it 3 times to cause it to fail out. But this script, the objection hook, it can basically say, no, we're going to have that changed to true. And that fools the app into letting you in and basically unlocks the cached login credential that's in there and lets you get in. Now, if somebody used this on your mobile banking, that would be pretty scary. But in order to actually do this, I had to get Frida running on the iPhone, which I was only able to do because it's jailbroken, although I think there's a couple of different ways that you can do it non-jailbroken, but still, usually you're going to need some sort of access to this device in the first place, which probably means that you've got them to install a malicious application, or you've stolen it from them and it was already unlocked, or you have a way to unlock it, in which case you have much bigger fish to fry. You have way more problems to deal with than the fact that, oh no, they bypassed biometric off on this mobile app that I've got. So if we go by a risk rating matrix, accessing someone's bank account, high impact. We all agree, absolutely no problem. But with likelihood, you've only got a couple of options. Let's say that the company that you work with, you do high, medium, lows. If you've got high impact and low likelihood, that's going to end up balancing up to a medium, which for really the likelihood that this is going to happen is just too high. And you might also get some pushback from the client about that. And when it comes down to it, are you going to get on a conference call with the client, your bosses, and everybody and try to argue that this is that big a deal and something that absolutely, could be potentially launch blocking, which clients very much care about? Next up, the dreaded retest, where you basically have to either parachute into a new client or a new engagement, and the way things are becomes the way things will be. I'm not going to name names, but I've seen some really, really awful pen test reports out there that have some of the stupidest findings you've ever seen. And they're only there because Nessus or Burp or Akinetics, which are all fine tools, but all those things told them, oh, this is a low risk, this is a medium risk, this is a high risk, even when it has no context as to what kind of environment you're in, the importance of the application, and all that. Some scanners even report things that just aren't even an issue anymore. So one example I like to use is, up until I think kind of recently, a lot of web application scanners were saying, oh no, autocomplete isn't explicitly turned off on this password field. But when was the last time that a web browser actually listened to that? I don't think they have in quite a while, and ones that do are so old and vulnerable in different ways that autocomplete on the password field, again, not your biggest concern. Somebody's got to get access to your system again. Are you using a shared machine at the library for this kind of thing? Probably not. Some people do, but that's not the average user's use case where they're using things on shared machines. Another example of that is session fixation. You would have to have access already to a shared machine in order to set that session cookie, and then when somebody logs in, that session cookie can then be used for a session hijack later on. Yes, it's bad because you can get access to somebody's established session, but you already had access to their machine. You could have run a keylogger on it. You could have done any number of things in order to get their credentials. The fact that the session cookie didn't change after login is probably pretty low on your list of concerns there. Now, another one, concurrent login. That's something I've had my views change on as I get older and more experienced, and there were times where I'd rattle my saber calling for, one session cookie per account that checks against browser fingerprinting, because what happens if the session cookie is stolen? But how many times have you wanted to punch a hole in your monitor while you're logging in interfaces to fix something, and it tells you, no, you have to log out of your previous session first? And that can always be a bit of a pain in the ass when all you did was change network interfaces. You haven't even changed your browser. The point I'm trying to make here is that just because we were wrong once on something does not mean that we need to be wrong forever. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to do it is now. Be the change you want to see in the world. And lastly, my God, do pen test reporters hate trees and disk space. When a report is mainly going to be used to fix an organization's systemic problems, it should probably read more like a manual and less like it was written by James Joyce. Brevity is the soul of wit in this particular case. Consolidation into a smaller number of high-quality findings is preferable to many, many, many low-quality findings. So, especially if the impact and likelihood that you're going to be writing over and over again are going to be pretty much just repeating themselves. So, the danger of using TLS version 1.0 is relatively the same as the danger of using CBC ciphers. They both make it easier for an attacker to crack encrypted comms that they collect over a long period of time. So they can be merged into a general weak TLS configuration finding, save a lot of room, and most importantly, just save a lot of complication and make this report easier to use for your client. And on the subject of TLS findings, sometimes your scope is pretty big. You could have entire network segments even. You might have hundreds of entries in it, and regardless of whether or not the template tells you to put all of the affected items into the report, if you have 200 different examples of weak TLS, please don't put that in the report. Just say it's in an appendix, put it into a spreadsheet. Because not only do executives not care about the individual IP address that has an individual bad cipher, the networking team does. And if it were my job to fix hundreds of hosts that have these problems, I sure would appreciate a spreadsheet that I can filter on rather than a janky Word table or, oh no, it's going to be a PDF because we can't have people editing a report. And also don't forget that at some point you're going to have to do some manner of readout call or presentation to the client about your report. So think about the way that it flows and reads. If you can't explain why the finding is worth reporting in conversation with the client, it's probably not a good finding. And lastly, assuming your company doesn't just shoot reports off to clients sight unseen, some poor soul is going to have to QA your report, and sometimes multiple times. And the longer that it is, and the more stuff that's in there, and the less consolidation that you do, the higher chance that something is going to be missed. Whether it could be a typo, it could be outdated information. You could have had a previous client name in there somewhere. And not only have you added them as a client of yours, you've also added them as having that same vulnerability in their environment. But, I'm sure it'll just be a typo. Don't worry about it. So now that I've ranted and raved, let's summarize my ramblings. Finding count is not always an indicator of the quality of the work that was done. And most importantly, you shouldn't use it as a measurement of your talent. The goal should be to provide your client with the best value possible. And in my opinion, a report that doesn't cause your client's eyes to glaze over and appear to be an insurmountable mountain, but contains all the right information to get them to a safer place, is the best value. Next, your automated scanning tools. As great as they are for taking care of grunt work, and can often find some little golden nuggets that you didn't know about, or might lead you to go look at something else, and you pick at that thread, and eventually you find something really high quality, which has happened to me many times over my career. Those risk ratings that they give are sometimes insanely high or ridiculously low, and that's not even getting into the false positives that are there sometimes. It's the scanner's there to help you, sure, but treat it as an unreliable narrator. Use it as one, like what it is, a tool. It's not there to do the entire job. It's there to help you do the job. So don't take what it says as gospel. And also, with honesty, if you write in the report that you took a look at a previous finding and decided that it was stupid and not worrying about, you're breaking the cycle of junk finding reporting. And you're a hero who should be given a parade. But talk to your management first, because they're pretty good at softening the blow when it comes to talking with clients. And lastly, unless you're doing an audit or investigating misconduct or a crime, you don't have to write something down in the report if it doesn't make sense to. You're allowed to use your best judgment, and if you still want to let them know about this 1 in a million likelihood thing that may or may not have any impact on them if it's exploited, you know, it's not illegal to tell them about it out of band with an email, or if you're somebody who weirdly likes to have them, a phone call. I understand this is a hard problem to solve, and I'm not exactly innocent of, you know, crimes against reporting either, but over the years, I've found ways to make my writing better, more concise, more consistent. But, you know, some of you watching have probably read reports that I've done over the years and thought, well, where does this guy get off? I remember a report where he reported that the head HTTP method being available was worthy of a low rating. Okay, fair, but I don't do that anymore. I was wrong once, but I didn't need to be wrong forever. And our goal as pen testers should be to make systems more secure for the people who use them, and a well-written report focusing on the most likely and dangerous vulnerabilities without too much clutter is what the client's management will use as their sword in that fight. So let's make it out of strong steel. Now, you didn't think I was going to let the other half of the equation out of this too easily. But yes, there are things that customers and clients can do to help break the cycle of low-quality reports. For one thing, to make our ratings more consistent and applicable to your environment, let us know beforehand what kind of protection mechanisms you have in place on back-end systems that we don't normally have visibility into, and the criticality of different hosts and applications that you have. Keeping information about known vulnerabilities in your environment to test your vendor not only demonstrates a genuine lack of trust, it wastes our time, it wastes your time, and ultimately you get less for your money. So any information that can be given to the tester to make their job quicker, more thorough, and more thorough means that they have more time to spend looking for more for other issues, and also writing you a better report, because oftentimes these reports need to be written alongside the testing. So if testing can be more streamlined, the report will also be better. And lastly, if you don't have a valid reason to downgrade or upgrade a rating, please do not ask us to compromise our integrity by changing it, especially if it's going to result in less likelihood of it being fixed. And that's it. That went by in a flash. Special shout outs to Jack Enders for ambushing me when I had a beer in my hand and asked me to do this. It was nerve-wracking, but a ton of fun. So thank you for pushing me to do it. And thanks to Josh Arsenio for looking over my slides to give me some suggestions to make things better and help limit the risk of me being fired for doing this. And I guess thanks to the dog for not being too disruptive during this process. You might have noticed some edits. She's why. So that's it for me. You can find me online in various places if you want to, or you can reach me at aturnsec@securitycompass.com if you have any questions or you want to tell me I'm wrong. Thank you very much, everybody. Well,
Man, you did so good. It's almost like you rehearsed it, dude. Or recorded it or something. I don't even know.
yeah, I know. Like it's actually interesting how quick my costume change was and how I've got different glasses on and everything. So, you know,
Like it faded to black and it came back and boom, different. I was like,
yeah,
what?
I've got a dimmer switch. Yeah,
Of course. No, that's cool, man. Technology's crazy these days.
So yeah, I didn't really see much in terms of questions in the chat. I mostly just saw a lot of people agreeing with me, which don't like that. Want some criticism? Let's go. Come on, folks. Give me something.
I think if anybody has something to share as well, we've all got our little like pet peeves. If you've been on
Yes.
one or the
So
other side of the fence, you're
another
like,
another thing
yes.
another thing I was thinking about earlier today was if anybody's got any, of course anonymized, no client or company names or anything like that, but any horror stories of a finding or something that was in a report that made you want to tear your hair out.
I feel like we should be inviting someone who like triages bug bounty findings because they will have an unlist list of things.
So I saw a great term. I think it was coined by Troy Hunt. I'm not sure if he was the one who came up with it, but beg bounties, which was
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yes, people who come up with, again, the junk findings I was talking about, like somebody who says like, God, what's a really stupid example? I'm trying to think of something really awful, but stuff like the, I know I brought it up before, but the autocomplete not being explicitly disabled on a password field for a login page when browsers haven't listened to that directive in probably, what, Adam, you might know, in probably 8-9 years or something like that. Oh, you're on mute, buddy.
I'm muted, but it's been a while. Yeah.
If at that point, if you're using a browser that is caching passwords because autocomplete isn't off, you need to worry about the fact that it probably still supports Flash and Java plugins, which are much more likely to result in some problems. Let's see. So we've got one from Craig. Do you think exploiting TLS issues are on the same level of biometric auth issues? Both are difficult to exploit and require the stars to align. Yes, Craig, I absolutely agree. I think that probably TLS issues, this is why a sliding scale of likelihood is probably what we need, because I think TLS is more likely to be exploited than biometric auth, because with biometric auth, you've got to be mugged, basically. And not only do you have to be mugged, you have to be mugged by somebody who knows what they're doing, which probably the only person I would worry about that with is actually somebody who's in the chat right now, who I'm not going to out him. But whereas with TLS, there are state-sponsored attackers who are able to gather a whole bunch of data and break it down because they've got access to ridiculous clusters. The issue with that is basically bringing it back to Matt was talking about, your threat model is how likely is it that somebody is going to do that to you? If you're running a website that allows people to anonymously report human rights abuses, yeah, you probably do have to worry about that. But if you're running an online store, probably not.
Yeah, I think also there's a bit of, was it targeted attack versus like spray and pray kind of situation happening with TLS type vulnerabilities. So the like we treat certificate what's it called, collisions as a
the hash collisions for
right, or even just hash collisions as a like thing that doesn't actually happen in real life, but it does. There was a person a bunch of sectors ago, and I keep forgetting his name, but his research keeps coming up because he actually basically downloaded all the publicly available certs that he could find for a period of like 2 years or something like that, and actually did the comparison. There's a lot there. Right. So in terms of certificate collisions and like hash collisions and all the rest of that stuff that you would use to break, modern TLS and other kinds of things like that. So when you're talking about like a specific targeted attack against a specific person, that might not be it might not be as relevant. But if you're talking about like just decoding or getting a sense of like internet traffic, TLS is much more likely in that sense. So if you're talking about, like random decryptions of things that happen to go to AWS or come from AWS, might be something very interesting there, right? But doesn't have to be specifically like some dude's traffic specifically. Right?
Yeah, it ultimately comes down to if it involves the internet, that means somebody is going to have a reasonable way to get to you. Whereas with biometric auth, you've got to not only have the device leave your control. In this particular case, you've also got to have the device on the OS side unlocked. So that means that it's already got you had your phone unlocked and somebody pulled a gun on you and grabbed it from you, and they're flicking around their thumb on it to keep it unlocked so that they can go later do some other attacks, or they found some insane O-Day to bypass iOS being locked, which I don't care how important you think you are, that is not being burned on you.
I don't know, man. I got some cool stuff on my phone. I got a lot of cool stuff.
It also depends. Like,
yeah,
my concern around biometric auth is really not about like individual devices. It's about like your bank's taking biometric auth and then storing the auth information somewhere. Like a lot of even the biometric auth methods used today, like the early ones were terrifying in that way, but the ones used today are still pretty bad because they'll like take a picture of your retina, of your eye, like the picture that they're using for authentication is being stored somewhere on a server somewhere, which has exactly the same
yep.
controls as pretty much everything else. And so you're thinking
it ultimately depends on how they're storing it. I think with iTouch, especially, they're letting the OS handle it, which means that it gets stored on. And yes, Andy Fasto bringing up an important thing. I think he's probably heard me say before, which is you can change your password, but you can't change your iris. I mean, you can, but that involves probably quite a bit of surgery and maybe some firearms. Who knows? But with biometric auth, the big problem that you have now is that you've got to trust that communication between the OS and the application, which, as you guys saw with the screenshot I had of objection running, that's not at all a good secured communication pathway, because you can just shim yourself right in between and intercept that and say, no, it actually did succeed.
Yeah, well, Ophi, you might have remembered this better than I can, but an old colleague of ours named Jackson actually found an issue with that. I think it was like the way that the ThinkPad reader works in ThinkPad laptops. If I recall correctly, it literally just took a photo of your finger, and that was the authentication. So you could feasibly just add like a photo of a fingerprint onto that reader, and you could log in. It's really interesting. I'll see if I can pull up the issue.
Yeah, just opened up my Corp laptop and saw the reader there and was like, "Ooh, good thing I don't use that."
Yeah. So some of the they've made improvements lately, obviously, but
sure hope so.
Well, they have like depth mapping and stuff like that on the newer scanners. I'm fairly certain, so they can actually get your ridge lines of your thumb and stuff like that. So it's a lot harder to do off. You can't really do a photo. Maybe a 3D model.
I think we all know, right? Like you can change your TLS, but you can't. Good luck with the iris and the fingerprints.
Garth is thankfully getting us back on track.
Thank you.
Challenges about talking to management about reports. Yes, this is a big one. This is what I meant. I didn't really call them out explicitly in this presentation because a lot of people who currently or used to manage me are probably watching this right now. But it can be tough to have that because oftentimes management, they got to play devil's advocate, and they have to be the person who the client is asking them, saying, hey, can you check for XYZ, which are part of some ancient compliance document that we still have that for some reason still mentions modem security on it. And we are basically kind of kind of strong-armed into reporting on that and talking about it seriously when we know for a fact that it's ridiculous and silly for us to be talking about it. I think the best thing you can do really is to just try to be as honest with your management as you can and approach it from an idea of, look, I think we need to work together to make this better, to get this kind of junk out of here, and never approach it in such a way as to be like, why are you making me say this stupid thing? Because oftentimes it's not their choice. It's that they're getting pressure from the client, and that person at the client is probably getting pressure from another person at their organization, and they might be getting pressure from some other consultancy that they've hired to help them pass an audit or something like that. So, stupid ideas bounce pretty far. So the person who's telling it to you is probably not the person who came up with it. Garth saying he has a horror story, which was receiving a report from someone who ran a tool and assumed that just because they got an HTTP 200 back meant that the payload worked.
And then Rick asked a question earlier. Are there any pentest reporting templates you would recommend?
Template, yeah. So not anything that I'm able to publicly share. It just ultimately comes down to what the organization wants. You do bring up a good point that I think there might be this already. I don't know, but if there isn't, perhaps that's something we can work towards, is to have sort of an open source vulnerability reporting idea of the kind of things you should be reporting versus not reporting, and kind of have that laid out that people can use as a starting point for building up and maturing their vulnerability reporting program.
Well, I know for a fact that OWASP has the web application security testing guide. I'm pretty sure is what it is. So that might be a good basis to start with if you're going to start reporting vulnerabilities, in terms of like how the semantics of how you'd want to report those. That's kind of like up to the individual and up to like what kind of risk you actually want to convey with those vulnerabilities, right? But that might be something might be a good place to look, though.
Yeah, normally I would also suggest, if you're looking for just the like how to report the vulnerability, there are some of the bug bounty sites actually have some really good guidance around what they want to be seeing in terms of replication steps and those kind of things. What you want to add as a pen tester on this side is extensive remediation support, right, which bug bounties typically don't ask you for.
Good point.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this probably a couple of times during the talk. This is a really hard problem to solve. I don't think I'm going to come up with any kind of a silver bullet to solve this problem. I just needed to talk about it in order to not just cave in from the inside.
First step's the minute you have a problem, right?
Yes.
This is like the Alcohol Anonymous of report writing, we think this group.
I don't know what you mean.
Like 3 separate instances, Andrew's like mentioned being at a bar with the beer in his hand. Just pointing that out for anyone who's paying attention.
Quite a lot of that is just infosec related, and also just you got a point.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the alcohol consumption. I'm just talking about like a reporting support group.
Reporting support group.
Yeah.
Holy moly!
The best way to make it. Look, the way to make a good report, you got to follow these 12 steps.
Okay. Well, any other questions, comments, horror stories from the audience?
Yeah.
To Garth's question about like management reports, I guess it depends also on like the level of management too. I find that individual managers are usually not super interested in like individual reports. They want aggregate information, just like you would expect, trends, standout like issues, things that they should be watching out for, prioritization.
So speaking of that, ultimately those kind of aggregate reporting, that's what ultimately drives change in an organization. And our reports that we're writing as pen testers, I'm using the royal we for that, but we're the ones who are feeding in that information to those aggregates, which means that if we are feeding in, quantity over quality, they're not really getting a good glimpse at the high level with all of their aggregate reporting and all that about what is really, really, really out there. So if we don't take the time to make sure, is this A, important to report, and B, accurate in the way that it's being rated, we're just poisoning the people down the river. And if we can find a way to clean that up before it gets downriver, it's a healthier ecosystem for everybody.
Agree.
Very true. Very true.
I don't know why I keep waxing poetic with everything that I've been saying. I saw some people saying like, "Oh, this is so quotable," and I'm like, it's just if people remember it, then that's what I'm trying to do.
Short and pithy. That's good.
Yeah. You worked with me for a little bit.
Very nice.
Okay, well, let's give the audience a couple minutes to take all the rest of that in. Any last word, like any parting words from you, Matt?
Oh, for me, wow. Not to say
Then
I've
we'll come back to Andrew afterwards.
I've pre-done anything, but no, I not necessarily. I think with like I'm a fan of OWASP, like yeah. But yeah, no, in terms of like closing thoughts, like thanks everybody.
Well, thank you, Matt, for coming out.
We'll definitely be talking to you again about threat modeling. It looks like there's tons of interest, and that's typically how it's been with these as well. So
yeah,
if you would
I guess
be interested
oh, sorry, go for it.
No, if you'd be interested, we'd love to have you back.
Yeah, I was gonna say like this is so this, technically speaking, this is my first time like doing any sort of talk whatsoever. So this is pretty exciting.
That's very great feedback.
Yeah.
Could have fooled me, man.
Oh, but yeah, so first time I've done anything like this, so like for me, it's pretty interesting. Like I don't think I've sat on the other side of this, but I haven't quite sat in this seat as of yet. So overall, very cool experience for me, and yeah, I'm happy to do more in the future if the people want it again. What can I do?
Do you hear the people sing? But yeah, same for me. This was a ton of fun to do. I of course had the being jittery and nervous the whole time running up to it or whatever, because it's been I've done presentations like this before, like at ISS sessions at Sheridan, but it's been quite a while since I've done something like this. So getting back in the saddle, I'm glad that it felt as natural as as it did, and I'm happy that the chat has been full of people that enjoyed it. I'm sure that I'll get the hate mail and the hate tweets later, but for now I'm happy, and the Leafs have not let in a goal yet, so I'm happy at least until that happens.
All right. Well, any parting words for the audience? Words of wisdom, last quote.
Yeah, go Flyers. Woo!
No, thank you. Only Gritty is the only one we will cheer for.
Okay. Well, thank you then. I appreciate everybody in the audience again, participating and chatting amongst yourselves and with the speakers and us, and of course for your time. So we will be having a December event as well, like a little bit earlier than our usual, just because we wouldn't want to overlap with Christmas. And then again on December 2nd, we will be at the Cyber Toronto conference. So hopefully we'll see you there. Thanks, everyone. Adam, any last words from you?
Yeah. Thanks again to Andrew and Matt, and of course, big thanks to our sponsors. Like Ophi mentioned earlier, please feel free to leave any comments or questions in the feedback form in the description of this video. That's it for us. So yeah, thank you everybody else for coming out, and we'll see you in December. So take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks
Thanks,
everybody.
Matt. Thank you, Andrew.
Bye-bye.
Good night.